Hello, this is Bunton with your Visual Functional Mathematics at Level 2, Section 1, Numbers. Today's lesson is Lesson 5 and the topic is percentages and percentage change. But before I go any further, I just want to raise your awareness to the fact that during this lesson and in previous lessons related to percentage and percentage changes, you'll observe that we've been converting most of our calculations to decimals, which is a very, very important point to keep in mind, because decimals enable us to do a lot of calculations that relate to fractions and percentages because they're related, and also decimal is much easier to work with than fractions and percentages and so on. I'm sure by now you begin to realize that. So the one advice I'll give to you is make sure you master everything we've learned on decimals. Okay, we'll get on with it now. Percentages and percentage changes. During this lesson, you will understand what percentages and percentage changes are. You'll calculate the percentage of something, express a number as a percentage of another, calculate a percentage increase and percentage decrease. You'll be able to find the original value, and you'll be able to find percentage changes. The keywords you'll be familiar with are percentage, increase, decrease, original, value, profit, loss, and fractions. I'm sure by now one thing that will be playing in your mind is money, profit and loss account, your bank balances, interests on savings, interests on loans, and so on and so forth. But there are other areas you will also need to concentrate on, that is statistical information like population and so on. What is percentages? Percent means out of 100. The symbol for percent is a short way of writing percent. 20% means 20%. In other words, 20 with that symbol after it means 20%. This is the same as 20 out of 100. 100% represents the whole amount of something. You can write any percentage as a fraction or as a decimal. For example, as you can see in front of you, 20% is equal to 20 over 100, which is equal to 0.2 as a form of decimal. You can check out Lesson 3 for more information, just to update yourself on fraction. You'll learn how to convert between fraction, decimal, and percentages in the next lesson, which is Lesson 6. But for now, let's look at some calculations of percentage or something. If you need to calculate the percentage of something, multiply by the decimal that's equivalent to the percentage. You see, we've started looking at decimal. Example 1. What is 17% of 1,580? First, turn the percentage into a decimal. How do you do that? You simply divide the percentage by 100. So 17 is equal to 17 divided by 100, which is equal to 0.17. Then multiply by the decimal. 0.17 times 1,580 is equal to 268.6. You begin to see how all of these different topics we've been doing are related, and we begin to use them to solve problems. You can work out a percentage without a calculator by breaking it down into parts which are easier to work with. Let's look at example 2. A hotel has 500 rooms. 63% of the rooms have been booked. How many rooms have been booked? You can break down the percentage into easier parts, which is important because working with 63% can be a little bit challenging. So break it down. 63% is equal to 50% plus 10% plus 1% plus 1% plus 1%. That is the 3% broken down. That's why it's up there in bracket. Don't forget when you've made your conversion that you have 3 1% to deal with. Work out the parts. 50% is equal to 500 divided by 2, which is 250 because 50% is half. 10% is equal to 500 divided by 10, which is equal to 50. And then 1% is equal to 500 divided by 100, which is 5. But don't forget that that 1% actually is one of 3. Convert them first of all, and then you add them up together. So you'll have 50%, 250, 10%, 50 plus 5% plus 5% plus 5%, which is equal to 315. And that is our answer. So 315 rooms have been booked. Practice questions, set 1. These questions are designed just to help you work with your percentage and familiarize yourself with converting percentage to decimals, decimals to fractions, and so on. So questions 1, 2, and 3 are pretty straightforward. You know what to do. And question 4 and 5 are exam-like questions which you must read carefully because sometimes they can be tricky. Question 4. A flight from London to Madrid has 560 passengers. That is 7.5% of the passengers are vegetarians. How many passengers are vegetarians? Question 5. Asif is a dentist. He sees 3,900 patients in a year. Of these, 28% need to have a filling. How many patients need a filling? Questions 1 and 2, you must try to do without a calculator, please. And these are your answers. Question 1, 147. Question 2, 198. Question 3, 2,507.2. Question 4, 210. Question 5, 1,092. Expressing a number as a percentage of another. If you need to express one number as a percentage of another, then you need to divide. Divide the first number by the second number to get a decimal. So we were talking about actually fraction. Then convert the decimal into percentages by multiplying by 100. Example 1. Divide the first number by the second. In other words, you make it into a fraction and you divide. You know that a fraction is a division sum. So 56 divided by 160 is 0.35. Convert the result into a percentage by multiply by 100. So 0.35 times 100 is 35%. Example 2. Kevin sleeps for 7.5 hours each day. There are 24 hours in a day. What percentage of the day is Kevin asleep? To answer this, again, divide the number of hours Kevin sleeps by the total hours, which is 7.5 divided by 24. That is a fraction. And then multiply by 100 to get to a decimal. So Kevin sleeps for 31.5 0.25% of a 24-hour day. Practice question set 2. Practice questions are coming more frequently now because there are so many things you need to familiarize yourself with. So please make an attempt to do all of them. So you've got the first 3 questions, which I will not read out for you. But questions 4, 5 and 6, again, are exam-like questions because they're essay questions and you need to understand them. A hotel has 45 rooms in total. 36 of them are being used by guests. What percentage of the rooms are being used? Now, question 5 is a little bit tricky. Listen. Maggie has used 36 of her 80 hours of her holidays for the year. What percentage of her holiday hours does she have left? Not what she's used, but what percentage does she have left? Question 6. Brian and Liv own ice cream shops. One day, Brian has 88 customers. 66 of them have sprinkles. Liv has 120 customers and 80 of them have sprinkles. In whose shop did a higher percentage of customers have sprinkles? Explain your answer. This is a very interesting question. Try to see if you can get it without looking, but if you don't get it, look at the answer and see if you can walk backwards. But you need to be able to get question 6 right because it's not an easy question. And these are your answers. Questions 1, 26%. Question 2, 62.5%. Question 3, 37.5%. Question 4, 80%. Question 5, 55%. Question 6, the answer is Brian. But remember, you're asked to justify your answer. So just writing Brian will give you 2 out of 3. You need to explain why. Percentage change. Calculating a percentage increase. Sometimes you might need to calculate the percentage increase. To do this, add the percentage increase to 100 and change the answer to a decimal. Decimal comes in again. Multiply by this decimal to find the increased value. Decimal again. Example. In 2016, a town's population was 2,500. By 2019, it has increased by 6%. How many people live in the town in 2019? Method A. Add 6% to 100% and convert to a decimal. By doing that, you'll have 106%. And then you divide 106 by 100, you'll have 1.06. Multiply the original value by 1.06 to find the increased value. So multiply 2,500 by 1.06, which is 2,650. 2,650 people live in the town in 2019. There's another way you can do it. You can also solve this by finding 6% of 2,500 and then adding it to it. I've demonstrated it on the next slide here. That is the alternative method. In 2016, a town's population was 2,500 and by 2019 it had increased by 6%. How many people live in the town? First, just find 6% of 2,500, which will be 150, and then you add that 150 to 2,500 and you'll have 2,650. Practice questions set 3. Jim earns 21,000 a year. He is given a pay rise of 2%. How much will Jim earn after his pay rise? Question 2. A company made a profit of 35,000 last year. This year, its profit has increased by 5%. How much profit did the company make this year? And question 3. Last year, a florist took orders from 26,000 customers. This year, orders increased by 75.2%. How many customers placed an order this year? These are your questions. These are your answers for practice question set 3. Question 1, 21,420. Question 2, answer 36,750. And question 3, answer 45,552. That is orders. Remember, I told you at the beginning that when you're doing these type of calculations, money will pop into your head, but not all the time. Question 3 is about quantity, it's about numbers, statistics. Calculating a percentage decrease this time. You might also need to find a percentage decrease. To find a percentage decrease, you need to take away the percentage from 100. Convert the new percentage into a decimal and multiply to find the decreased value. Remember, when you're working with percentage, fractions and decimals, you have to do multiplication and division most of the times because they are all related, and with percentages you're always working in terms of 100. So any percentage figure you have, it has to be over 100. Okay? And likewise, of course, fraction is a division sum. You see, so if you're dividing with a fraction, you will have to divide and then multiply as well. Example, last year a company made a profit of £20,000. This year, profits are a bit down by 14.5%. How much profit will the company make this year? 1. Take 14.5% away from 100%, which will give you 85.5%. And then you divide that by 100 to get 0.855. Multiply 20,000 by 0.855 and you will have 17,100 profit for this year. Again, you can also do this by finding 14.5% of 20,000 and then taking it away. And I demonstrated that for you. Next slide. First, 14.5% of 20,000 is equal to 14.5% divided by 100 times 20,000, which is equal to 2,900. And all you have to do, subtract 2,900 from 20,000 and you'll have 17,100. The same answer as the previous example. Practice question, set 4. After January sales, a retail outlet reduces the number of items with a discount on them by 40%. During the sale, 120 products had a discount on them. How many products have a discount on them now? Question 2. Last year, Isla ran a 10 kilometers race in 60 minutes. She completed it 5 minutes faster this year. How long did it take her to run 10 kilometers this year? Question 3. Last month, Dave used 16 gigabytes of data on his mobile phone. This month, he used 31.25% less. How much data did he use this month? Of course, gigabyte is how they measure the quantity of data you have in a computer. Answers to practice questions set 4. Question 1, 70. Question 2, 57 minutes. So because she ran faster, her time was quicker. And then question 3 is 11 gigabytes. Now, finding the original value. This can be a little bit tricky because it took me a while when I was at school to learn how to do this. But I've tried to make it as simple as possible for you. You could be given the result of a percentage change and be asked to work backwards to find the original value. First, write the amount that you're given as a percentage of the original value. Divide to find 1%, and that's the key point. Divide to find 1% of the original value. And then, of course, multiply by 100 to give the original value. Let's look at how we did it. Example, an antique vase increased in value by 15% to £3,450. Find what it was worth before the rise. Those of you familiar with auctions, you'll be able to find this interesting. The value has increased by 15%, so 3,550 is 100% plus 15%, which is equal to 115% of the original value. So that is 115% is equal to 3,450. So what is 100%? That is what this question is about. So divide by 150 to find 1%, which is £30. And then what do? Multiply by 100 to find 100%. So £30 times 100 is 3,000. If the percentage change is a reduction, then the percentage of the original value will be less than 100%. For example, if a value is reduced by 10%, then the amount you're given is 100% minus 10%, which is 90% of the original value. Practice question set 5. I want you to read this carefully by yourself, all 3 questions, because nobody will be there to read them for you in your exam. Take your time, get your pen and pencil, and make notes if you have to. Questions 1 deals with square meters, by the way. Question 2 and question 3. Don't forget to put your correct notation. If it's square meters you're working with, then you would be expected to use square meters when you're writing your answer. And these are your answers. Question 1, 70 meters square. Question 2, 125. Question 3, 3,600 pounds. Those are the answers for the practice question. Finding the percentage change. Sometimes you'll be given the result after a percentage change and the original value, and you'll need to work out what the percentage increase or decrease was. To do this, divide the new value by the original value to give a decimal. Convert this decimal into a percentage and then subtract 100% to get the percentage change. If the percentage is negative, then the change was a decrease. Let's look at an example. When Anush bought her car, it was worth £32,000. The car is sold 5 years later for £24,000. What is the percentage change in the value of the car? Step 1. Divide the new value by the original value, which is 24,000 divided by 32,000, which is equal to 0.75. Convert the decimal to a percentage. Times 0.75 by 100, and then you have 75%, and all you have to do is to find the difference. So 75% minus 100% is equal to minus 25%. Because it's a minus, then the value is a decrease, and it's decreased by 25%. You need to be very careful when you're working with negative numbers. We've worked with negative numbers before. Practice question set 6. 5 years ago, 3,000 turtles nested on a beach. This year, 3,090 nested on the beach. What is the percentage change in the number of turtles nesting on the beach? Question 2. Majid's car had a mileage of 12,500 miles at the start of the year. It is now 14,750 miles. What is the percentage change? And question 3. The turnout at a polling station 5 years ago was 3,725. At a recent election, the turnout was 3,576. Work out the percentage change. These are your answers. Question 1 was an increase of 3%, question 2 an increase of 18%, and question 3 a decrease of 4%. And that's your lesson. But before we go, let's summarize what we've learned. You now know what percentages are. You know how to calculate the percentage of something. You know how to express a number as a percentage of another. You know how to calculate percentage increase. You know how to calculate percentage decrease. You know how to find the original value, and then you know how to find percentage change. And that is our lesson for this week. Next week, we're going to have lesson 6 as a very, very interesting topic. But I'm not going to tell you what it is yet. I'll let you find that out for yourself. I hope you've enjoyed the lesson. This is a very important lesson because it deals with money. I'll see you next week, and thank you for